Professor Bright here again, and in this video we're going to talk about writing mathematics, so including mathematical statements within your writing. And this is going to be a series of videos, but this week we're just going to do one part and really work on this part intently in our professional problem this week. Okay, so part one, I just want to focus on writing variables, functions, and symbols within your professional problem. Okay, the most important thing that I can tell you is that you need to make sure that they are defined. Okay, and we might be used to writing these symbols on other problems, but here again this is an essay format, so we can't just write, x equals the number of bacteria. Okay, but instead, so we don't want to do that. Instead, what we do want to write is something like, let x represent the number of bacteria. Okay, and make sure it is a sentence, so make sure to end in a period. Okay, so instead of doing something like this where we're writing it in maybe more of a casual format, we need to make it into a sentence. Okay, also just make sure to see notation that the problem already uses. Okay, so maybe from the prompt or somewhere else that the notation's already being introduced. Okay. Secondly, what we need to do is we need to make sure to put any short, so this is maybe ill-defined right now, short equations and expressions in line with text, and the longer equations expressions need their own line. Okay, so what do I mean by short? Okay, short would be something like what I did here. Okay, or you could do something like, when x is equal to 2, then f of x is equal to 4. Okay, that would be okay too. Okay, let me back up there. That would be an example of short. So it's just, quick definition or a quick use of the variable or function, and you can surround it with text, making sure to keep punctuation again. Okay. Now, an example of longer equations. Okay. This might be something like having. I'll just make up an example here. Having found the function, okay, and then I'm going to do f of x is equal to x squared minus 3x plus 2, comma, okay, and this is maybe a little awkward. Then the limit can be found. Period. Okay. There will be a third video where we go through an example of putting both the first video on audience and this writing piece together. Okay, to show how this all fits together. Okay. So the longer equation, yeah, this was maybe more than, say, 3 characters or 3 chunks of information, so I wanted to put that on its own line. Okay. Next part that we're going to focus on is to say that if we have multiple lines of math at a time, we want to indent the entire block and align the equations at the equal signs. Okay, and the aligning at equal signs, that's called the Oklahoma rule. Okay, so for example, let's say I have some text, whatever, and then I do the limit as x approaches 2 of f of x, okay, and then I'm going to do equals, okay, and let me back up here. We're going to go actually, let's not write it there. Instead, I'm going to write equals the limit as x approaches 2 of, and then we'll use that same function up there, x squared minus 3x plus 2, and then I would go on and do another line with another equal signs. I think that's going to run into my text that I have. Yep. So we'll show this in our example, but make sure that if you have multiple lines, you would indent it from the entire text. So see how I indented here, the text was up here, and then any subsequent lines I line up them with the equal signs. And then the last thing that I have to mention here before we go on to our example in the next video is that remember that your math is actually a part of a statement, okay? And so as a part of a statement, you need the correct punctuation, right? I did that up here, right? So having found the function, and then I list the function, comma, then the limit can be found, period. Okay, and also when I define my variable, I did it as a sentence. Here in this chunk, you're actually doing one long statement. So at the very end, you would have to include a period. Okay, so that's the information on writing mathematics from a preliminary glance. We'll continue to develop this over time, but next we will go into an example for this week.